Hey guys, how you doing? So, as somebody who never got a proper chance to check out BFN when it was being updated, I've always been curious about what the game felt like when it was still being supported. I've heard from many that the game was either A, really fun, B, fine, or C, garbage. And needless to say, I think most of you know exactly which of those responses I've heard the most. But regardless, it's always been a curiosity of mine, and recently I actually decided to look into one aspect of the game that I never really thought to check before: the game modes. See, back when the game was still supported, it actually had a lot more game modes available, similar to Garden Warfare 1 and Garden Warfare 2. Now, there were the obvious ones available, like Mixed Mode and Permanent Battle Arena, but there were also some game modes that never ended up sticking around. So, in today's video, I'd like to look into the game modes that we can no longer play, to ultimately see if there is a reason why they never came back. So, without any further ado, let's first look at the character weeklies. What I mean by that is the weekly game modes that limited the characters you could play as. There were a ton of these back when the game first launched, such as Space Nuts, which was a Space Cadet and Acorn mode, along with their bigger forms of course. There were also a few that ended up being made right before the game lost support, like Minion Madness, which is a TV Head and Wildflower exclusive mode. These game modes all seemed pretty interesting, but I bet there was a meta in each one that basically killed the fun for any team getting dominated. So that's most likely why only one of these modes are available nowadays, that being Garden Warfare. Now, a couple of these in particular actually did stick out to me, one of which being lunchtime at the lab, and unfortunately for it, that was not for a good reason. This mode was actually also in Garden Warfare 2's Town Hall, which is pretty neat, but in BFN, it did not translate well. If we look at the characters available, those just being Chomper and Scientist, you'll see pretty quickly just how boring this mode probably was. It's literally just Goop versus Overhealth, and I'm sure that wasn't very fun to play for anybody. Now let's move on to some of the more interesting modes. One of these are somewhat similar to the previous modes we talked about, but with a bit of a twist. This one is named Don't Call It a Comeback, and it allows the player to pick TV Head and Wildflower, with the mode being Suburbanation. What was so special about this mode is that you can also play any other character as well, so it sort of acted like a Town Hall in Garden Warfare 2. I'd say that's pretty neat, and it makes me wish that they did that for Wizard as well. Next up is a mode that's technically still in the game, but it's not the one we know and love, that being Ranked Battle Arena. I know it isn't technically forgotten, but it's still interesting to talk about regardless. This mode was basically a ranked mode, which worked in a way that I don't really understand, so I'm not going to explain it here. But what I do know about this mode is that it had many problems, and I think that's why PopCap ultimately canned it. Now, for the last mode I want to discuss in this video, it is also one of those limited character modes, but I couldn't help not talking about it. This mode is called My Turf, My Rules, and the only characters that you can play in it are Electric Slide and Super Brains on zombie side, and Snapdragon and Rose on plant side. Yes, Rose. I don't quite know which genius on a dev team came up with that roster, but it's disgusting regardless. This is actually the only mode to my knowledge that doesn't even out the role types of the characters allowed, besides Garden Warfare of course. So yeah, this one looked pretty bad, and I'm sure we're all thankful it's not in the game anymore. So to end off this video, I'd like to discuss what could have happened to these modes. Some of these rightfully never came back, such as the broken mess that we just covered, or they were just seasonal modes that weren't going to come back regardless, such as the TV Head and Wildflower modes. But some of these might have just been canned for their lack of popularity. Like, there wasn't anything inherently wrong with modes like Backup and Arms, but I'm sure they didn't see a good player count. Also, this is completely off script here, but looking at the wiki entries for most of these, it actually shows a pretty good picture as to why some of these never came back. Like, did you notice that a lot of the footage in this video was my footage? Yeah, that's because you can make most of these in private play, so I guarantee you that was another reason why a lot of these never came back. But with that in mind, I think I'm going to end this video here. This video was a lot of fun to research, and I hope you guys learned something new about BFN, and let me know. Did you guys play some of these modes? And if you did, were they fun? Were they not? Well, let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new around here and you like what you see, then drop a like, maybe even subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next video. Peace.